How to Plan a Spring Wedding, hosted by me, your online wedding planner. Hey, if you're new here, my name is Jamie Wolfer. I hope you plan weddings so you can stress less, plan easy because you deserve to have a stress-free wedding day. And in today's video, we're breaking down all things spring wedding because I don't know about you, but we are heading into spring here in Central Texas, which basically means both winter and summer are fighting for custody of our every single day. You wake up in the morning and you got the fuzzy socks on and the sweatshirt and you're all cozy, and then by about noon, you're in a tank top and shorts. But for a lot of people and a lot of, I was about to say habitats, spring is a glorious time to get married. But we're going to talk about everything you need to know about a spring wedding in today's video. I don't like when you can see the ring light on that. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into it. First and foremost on the list for a spring wedding is weather. For a lot of us, weather is pretty unpredictable. I don't know about you, but here in Central Texas, we had like a 60-degree swing in 5 days where it got like down super, super low. And I'm not even including wind chill or anything like that. I think it got down to like 13 degrees. And then less than a week later, we were in the mid 70s. That's wild. Okay, that's wild. And that was February, but that's February normally for us. The main thing you want to focus on is, above all else, comfort for you and for your guests. So when it comes to weather in the spring, you're going to want to make sure you're looking for a venue that accommodates anything happening. You know, you may be in the north where you're like, listen, Jamie, we won't see proper sunshine till May, so our spring doesn't even really start till then. Cool, then just like shift this video and we'll call it spring, but it'll technically be summer for you, but all of these rules still apply. You might have a rainstorm out of nowhere, you might have a light drizzle, you might have a day that's really, really hot out of nowhere. So when you're hunting around for a venue for your spring wedding, you want to find something that is flexible or has space for a tent. Now we need to have a little quick aside on tents specifically. And you can tell it's spring because I have dirt under my fingernails from the garden. I swear I just cleaned these. Tents have an extremely high non-refundable deposit because what the tent rental companies want to avoid is having all of their tents booked up and then everyone canceling it when they could have offered it to other people. It gets really, like, especially during spring and fall and winter, of course, but that's usually when people plan a little bit more ahead and intend to have a tent regardless. So what they end up doing is they charge usually somewhere in the ballpark of a 50% non-refundable deposit for your tent. Tents take a while to set up. They take a decent amount of space. So usually if you're going to do it, you got to commit and do it. Now, inevitably, I still get couples who have like a 60% chance of rain on their wedding day, or they kind of get a little bit nervous. They get a little bit freaked out because there's a percentage or there's a chance. And I remember vividly with one couple of ours, like it kept shifting. It went from like 20% chance to 70% chance to 40% chance. And the bride that last week was really stressing out, like extremely, extremely stressed out because her ceremony was going to be outdoors. So of course we did our best to walk through every case scenario, worst and best, to see where she landed. And for me, this is more of an emotional decision than it is a logical decision because the logistics I got. Like if we need to book a tent last minute, you just say the word as long as you're comfortable with booking a tent. If you want to do a shuffle inside your reception space, yes, that makes it a lot more logistically difficult. Trust me, I'm not just trying to like sweep this under the rug. I would probably then need a crew to come in and do a shuffle, which means to change your ceremony from ceremony to reception, or a flip. That's another term for it. Or you have both set up at the same time. So we're making a lot of last minute adjustments, but I can handle those logistics. The logistics have answers. It's the emotions for you that I don't have an answer for. So if you go, I could not imagine our day getting rained out, I don't care, we're moving everything inside. Or if you go, I cannot imagine missing out on this backdrop that I've planned to get married in front of for so many months that like, if we get wet, I don't care. So that becomes an emotional decision for so many couples where it's the logistics we can figure out. We can come up with a game plan for that. We can brave the rain and hope for the best and keep the ceremony brief. We can put everything inside. We can rent a tent. We can... Those are the only options that we could do. But those are the options. Not to mention those cutie little clear umbrellas. I'm obsessed with them. I think they're so cute. And those to me honestly still have not gone out of style, and I don't know if they ever will. Maybe it's just because I'm obsessed with like shots of couples in the rain with their clear and like their wedding party. It's so cute in my opinion. I think it's really cute. And a lot of planners and or photographers will actually keep one of these or throw some in the back of their car if they suspect rain. So you could be covered that way. I would double check with them. Don't just assume that they're going to do that. Okay. Or you could purchase them for yourself. And if you don't need them, you could return them afterwards if you didn't use them. On the flip side of that, if it ends up being really hot, consider adding in parasols, which of course sounds so cute. Just add in parasols. They're also very expensive. So, take it with a grain of salt. Would you rather have a tent or move it inside or pay for parasols? And you're going to have like 150 parasols afterwards. They're so cute. Spring food. Food is I'm such a foodie, you guys. I don't know if you know this about me. I love food. I also think food is medicine. And I also think eating seasonally is like real cool for your body. That's more of a personal channel kind of conversation. But eating local and in season can bring some really great, delicious dishes where you're looking at, throwing some peas in your arugula salad, or you now have this really great winter produce and we're coming into spring. So you get this beautiful mashup of things. Speaking of mashes, mashed potatoes and all those heavier food items that you ate over winter are kind of going away a little bit, although mashed potatoes is my favorite food group in the entire world. So that never leaves, okay? That always has a special place. I think I have 30 pounds of potatoes in my pantry right now. In addition to that, if you are eating seasonally and locally, then it's a little bit less of a footprint that you're making, which is cool. I also just love gardening, hence the dirty fingernails. But you kind of see and feel as a whole this food movement of going to fresher, brighter ingredients. You might see more lemonades and iced teas. In fact, one of the cheapest hacks for getting bulk drinks into your guests is to rent and or purchase large drink dispensers. I recommend at least a single gallon, if not two. We're talking those big bad boys like this, okay? This is a hack that I saw one couple do, and I will forever repeat this until the cows come home. Okay, I don't have cows, but I do have goats. Until the goats come home. Put ice water, iced tea, and lemonade. Here's what they did, okay? Here's what they did. Listen to me speaking out of both sides of my mouth, okay? Food is medicine, but also at the same time, if you need to use some country crock lemonade, do it. They just stored gallons of water, and this was like the third wedding I worked, and I never forgot this. They stored gallons of water under the dispenser table, the drink table, and then you would just pour in the powdered iced tea, and everyone in the UK just fainted at me saying that, I'm so sorry, and the powdered lemonade, shake it up, and then pour it in, and all you'd have to do is top off the ice. Boom. You can't tell me it's not smart, okay? Some people might not go for country crock. That's okay. It is so smart when you're limited on fridge space and freezer space, so that way the only thing you're keeping cool and the only thing you're monitoring is the ice. And you can actually pre-mix some of these ahead of time as well. But I would recommend not pre-mixing all of them because then you'll need to store those afterwards. And if you keep it all water, it's a lot easier to store. Okay, just some food for thought. But generally like lemon, bright, flavorful. It feels like something that came from the garden. It's less heavy, it's less dense, although I could go for a steak any day of the week. Now I might want it with like a chimichurri. Something a little bit brighter because cilantro always bolts when it gets super hot. Or is it parsley? Well, both bolt, but I don't remember which goes in a chimichurri. And if you want to get super bougie, let's say you're doing the dispenser thing, right? Add cut fruit, add cucumbers to the water, add lemons to the lemonade or grapefruit. Get a little fancy with it. Put chopped watermelon, like slices of watermelon in the tea. But as an aside, just to be sure, in case of allergens or food sensitivities, make sure there is plain water available as well, just in case someone's like allergic to cucumbers. That's probably a thing. I haven't personally heard of it, but I'm not saying it doesn't exist. So you want to make sure that you're accommodating that if you have someone that's coming to your event, or maybe they just don't like cucumbers. I hear they make you burp. Have you heard this? One of my seeds, oh my gosh, I am sounding like such a garter in this, I was about to say episode. One of my seeds said burpless cucumbers. And I was like, what is this? So I looked it up. Apparently some people claim that cucumbers can make you burp. I didn't know that. Anyways, another thing you're going to want to do for food and bev is focus on white wines and lighter beers. We're moving away from reds as much. You're going to still want to have some available. And usually I recommend like a cab, like a dry Pinot Noir or like a fruity cab tends to be like a real good crowd pleaser because it dances that line for people who prefer those ends of things. A lot of times we don't see a lot of Merlots unless someone or people in the crowd there are aficionados or enjoy a really dry wine. But I do see a Chardonnay is a really safe bet. A Sauv Blanc or a Pinot Grigio, those tend to be a little bit lighter. I'm not a sommelier. I just like wine. And so those are my recommendations. You'll kind of see people gravitating towards something that's chilled and fresh. Style. Wedding style in spring. There tends to be like this soft etherealness to spring. Like it's flowy, like the world is inherently gently waking up. And so I think we see that translated sometimes in style with the colors that are chosen. A lot of couples will opt for pastel tones, which is very akin to Easter. And some people really like that, or they'll pick one pastel and make it their entire personality, right? Everyone's in periwinkle. Every single person. Then you get the little periwinkle tie with like the little flowers on it, or a lavender or a dusty rose. Or some people will get a little bit more punchy and bring in some of those bright colors that you'll see in summer. And again, you don't have to decorate or style seasonally. Like you could do literally whatever you want. Like you do you, Boo Bear. The reason I'm saying this is it tends to kind of match what we're feeling and match the environment and match the holidays around that season, etc. So it works. It's an easy plug-in. It's an easy starting point, easy foundation for your style in general. But if none of those apply to you or you don't want to use them, then ignore everything that came out of my mouth. There also could be some lingering fall colors that are there as we're seeing the fresh new green come out. I think jewel tone is like always a good idea. You know, so you got all the beautiful greens outside. Throw some other jewel tones with it. We can also see a wide range of dresses in this season as well, because it could be cool, it could be warm. April 25th, not too hot. Just need a light jacket. So you don't have to commit to going super short or super flowy, and you also don't have to commit to going super heavy. But usually there's a wider range of gowns available to your wedding party that they could wear and still be comfortable in. Suits, again, you'll see a lot of people going for lighter tones, but I will tell you that a black tux you can never go wrong with. It is just always chef's kiss. Flowers. Let's talk about flowers, because I think this is something that one of my dear friends, if you are in the master plan, then you know she's often on our calls. She's our in-house florist and one of our lead wedding planners, Rebecca. She talks a lot about seasonality when it comes to flowers. There used to be a lot more seasonality when it comes to flowers. And one of the things that she has shared, she says that it's a lot less common. When we're looking at greenhouse growing and or high tunnels or hoop houses, that really lengthens the growing season for a lot of different varieties. So a lot of farmers and growers are taking advantage of these because that keeps it warmer longer so they can produce those varieties during the off season. So it's not unheard of to get a peony in fall, although they're most commonly out, especially at Trader Joe's in May. They like assault you with those bad boys, and I'm not mad about it. The only thing I'm mad about is that the closest Trader Joe's to me is like an hour and a half away. That angers me, okay? Waco, get your stuff together. However, you will see blooms that are more inherently their perfect and or larger and or correct size during their peak season. See, that's the cool thing about a lot of these growers is they're just getting out there and they're getting crafty. They got a lot of options. So we've kind of moved away from the seasonality of flowers. You might have a florist who says, hey, we still have to pay attention to these or the wholesaler that I purchased these from don't have them available. There still is availability issues, but we see less seasonality specific. Just be aware that if you go to your florist and you want to have a March wedding and you want to have peonies, that they might not be as big and glorious as the ones you see in the store. Next thing you need to take into consideration when it comes to a spring wedding is all the holidays. There's like a lot of them. I'm just going to read off a list. We've got Easter and all the holidays associated with that, Ramadan, Passover, Mother's and Father's Day, spring break, etc. I probably missed a few. Feel free to go ham on the comments. Let me know all the ones I missed. I probably missed a few just because there's a huge list of things that happen during the scene. Memorial Day weekend. That also I think falls technically in spring. This is where you want to be cognizant of your guests' accommodations. Now, usually I'm not team you have to have a room block. That's not like my style. But perfect example, I had a couple getting married on Memorial Day weekend in Carlsbad, California, which can be a destination location for a lot of people. And a lot of their family members were coming from Arizona and other locations around the United States. And so they knew that accommodations in that area would book up real quick. Anyone who's booking a long weekend or just coming to hang out by the beach, like they knew that would happen. So they intentionally sent out their save the dates and their invitations earlier because they were not in a place to do a contracted hotel block. They could do a courtesy hotel block, which is, there's a difference between the two. And I think I have a video on them. If I do, I'll put it here. Where did I talk about these? It might have been in the master plan call, which y'all, if you're not a part of the master plan, you should come join me there where I do live monthly calls with all of my online clients so we can go through all of your questions. I can go through people's budgets. We can go through your timeline if you're running into issues and you really need clarity on it. It's a lot more helpful than the comment section, although the comment section is gorgeous. I love you guys. Keep commenting, okay? Get down there. Say something. Give me a knock joke or something. That's where I get to be a lot more hands-on, where I can be your actual online wedding planner because these videos are great, but I get to be hands-on there. So are you in a destination town? Are you planning this near some sort of holiday? If so, you need to kind of think through how far in advance hotels and Airbnbs book up and adjust your save the date and or invitation schedule accordingly. Usually I recommend like a 6-month out save the date and, anywhere from 8 to 12 week out, 6 to 12 week out invitation date, 6 weeks if everyone's local, extend that time a little bit more if people are further away and or if you did not send out a save the date. If you have a destination event for other people and not for yourself, I would consider maybe sending those on the longer end of things to give people time to book their flights, their travel, and their accommodations. And with that Memorial Day weekend in Carlsbad, it was perfect because the couple actually encouraged all their family members and friends to come make a weekend out of it. And they didn't host events throughout the weekend per se, but they were available. Like they had an open house the day before at a restaurant where everyone could just come and go. And that's how they treated their rehearsal, is doing that in lieu of a proper rehearsal dinner with everyone that was coming in from out of town. And I believe they met up for a brunch the day afterwards. They're like, hey, we want you to enjoy your experience. Here are some locations you should totally check out. Here are places that we love if you plan on enjoying the long weekend here. But they did also specifically tell their guests, be sure to book stuff ahead of time. This is a popular, very fun city. We're so excited to share it with you, but we want to make sure you have accommodations. So for your event, some guests may do that same exact thing and treat it like a little vacation for themselves, while others may go, oh shoot, I've had a vacation booked on this Memorial Day weekend for the last year. Now I either have to cancel it to come to your event or keep my vacation I've already spent a lot of money on. Pricing. Let's talk about seasonal pricing. Some vendors do this. Some vendors will charge cheaper for the off season and charge more for the on season, hot season. There is seasonality to pricing as well. And not seasonality, it's more location based. So for example, in California, I could book year round, no problem. It never got really too hot unless we're, in 29 Palms, which, yay, 29 Palms. If you know, you know. Or too cold unless you're up in Arrowhead or Big Bear. Like we had access to places like that. But where I worked, most of the time, the weather was actually kind of perfect. Now that I'm out here in Central Texas, and we've been here for about 5 years now, there is times where it's not perfect to have an outside wedding. It's much less perfect. And the reason that this shift happens is because, depending on where you're at, the summer months in California were like, those would go like crazy. Of course, a bunch of people wanted those dates because the weather is gorgeous and you can do so much of it outside. So when the dates are in the highest demand, some vendors will adjust their pricing accordingly. So for those who do change their pricing according to the weather outside, usually you'll start to see that price increase April, May-ish. For most of us, that's when the weather becomes a little bit more predictable. I said most of us. Arizona. We know that's where things start to get insane for you guys outside. I don't know why you live in a place where you could cook an egg on a sidewalk. Although, to be fair, it does get pretty hot out here in Texas as well. But there's the dry heat. Now, me personally, I don't adjust my pricing. I've never adjusted my pricing according to the seasons. I've always kept it the same throughout the year. Occasionally done up to my prices halfway throughout the year if I figured that my packages were too low, which is a whole different conversation. But usually what I do is I will change my pricing at the end of the year. Don't feel like you have to rush to book vendors in the hopes that you're going to be getting some sort of a discount. And the reason I say that is I don't want you to rush into making decisions with your vendors at all whatsoever. I want to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident, that you like their services, that you feel comfortable with their pricing, because there will be another vendor out there. So I just want to make sure all y'all that are watching this and just got engaged on December 25th are trying to get all of their vendors booked on December 26th to save some money. I mean, you could try, but most people are probably going to be out of office. Last thing I want to cover, and this is again for all seasons, but specifically for spring, sometimes we forget when we're scheduling out our timeline, sunset, when sunset happens, sunset photos, etc. I actually had a couple get married in July. The bride completely forgot that the sunset at like 8 something in California. She really wanted a nighttime ceremony. And we're like, that won't happen. Which sucked, broke her heart, super bummed, but it's okay because her wedding turned out absolutely gorgeous anyways. We want to make sure that we know what time of day the sun is setting. And I'm going to expose myself a little bit here. I will never forget this moment where this was actually a Palm Springs wedding. It was so good. It was warm. It was May though. So it wasn't quite like where the earth was screaming at us yet. It was just like inhaling before the scream. And I was talking with a photographer ahead of time trying to figure out sunset photos. And so I looked up the sunset time online, which is a very handy tool to go ahead and do. I looked it up. And so I put that in my timeline and the photographer emails me back and she's like, hey, this sunset photo time is not going to work. And I was like, oh, I looked up a sunset time. She goes, yeah, mountains. And she was 100% right. The mountains and where the hotel was nestled was like in the foothills, which meant we'd be losing that golden hour glow. That wouldn't be happening there because of where the sun went down and the mountain location. She said more than just mountains. There was a conversation around it. But any hoodles, I found this new website. I don't know. Is it an app? I mean, the website address is .app. So I wonder if there's an app for it. It's called shademap.app. What you can do here is you can see how the shade will go. You can put in the day and the time and actually like scroll back and forth to see when the sun is going to set in that area. Now, if you are in the middle of Texas, it doesn't matter because it's flat everywhere. Okay? The rolling hills, don't know her. But if you are in a location that has mountains, trees, actual movement to the earth crust, you're going to want to go ahead and take a look at this. I'm referencing it because I actually have it open right here. I just think this is so cool. You can actually go back and forth and see when the shadows start to happen, when it will be at its darkest point, when the sun is fully set. Like for me, we lose all daylight not daylight. The sun is completely set by 6:30. That's when we lose all the shadows on this. But of course, we start to get longer shadows before then because we've got a lot of really big oak trees and whatever around us. So that's something that, if we were ever photographing anything on our property, we'd want to be aware of. So all to say, I highly recommend just checking out shademap.app. It's not sponsored, but if y'all see this, please call me. Because this is incredible. This is such a good tool. I know there's apps out there that photographers will literally pay for, which I think is just great that they're doing this for you. But also I want everyone to know about this service because it's completely free. It's completely free. So that way you could track when the sun sets and you could be prepared for your photos. Don't get too into the weeds on this. This is something your photographer should be handling for you. But if you want to pass this along to them, they might be like, oh my gosh, this invention is great. And then you can tell them about my channel and then they can come subscribe. A spring wedding is in a lot of ways nigh on identical to every other wedding. We want to make sure that people are comfortable. There are some fun things that you can do with food and drink. And yes, we'd love to anticipate those needs just a little bit. Make sure we're serving the right beverages that'll be consumed. Otherwise, those will go out real quick. Maybe get inspired to feed something a little bit lighter, a little bit more springy from the garden. Maybe let that influence your color tones if you want to when it comes to your event, just to kind of work with nature and just really enjoy spring for all it is. But in the grand scheme of things, a lot of this advice is really good because it doesn't really matter when you get married. All those things still apply. Except for maybe less of the arugula. You always want to be cognizant of weather and any sort of extreme weather conditions. Eating seasonally and locally is always a great idea financially. Letting the season dictate your style is a really good jumping point. Being mindful of holidays is always a good idea. Being aware when pricing changes can happen or pricing surges will just equip you even better. And you can always ask for off-season prices or, weekday prices or, other than Saturday. So usually Friday, Sunday prices that can adjust things for you as well. And then to be aware of when sunset is, if sunset time and sunset photos are important to you. So that's what we have for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, jump on down there, like this button if you like the video, and subscribe to this channel for more tips and tricks for the modern day bride. And until next week, bye guys.